Little local flavor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and welcome to One Stop Co-op Shop. This is Steve. I'm here with two special guests tonight. We have
Woohoo!
Dennis from Furia Games
Hello.
and Lauren, who's doing the art for Deck of Wonders.
Hello.
And so, yeah, we're here to talk about the game Deck of Wonders. This was a game on Kickstarter. It is currently available on GameFound. I will add the link to that below if you guys want to check it out. Uh,
Oh,
Oh, we might have
Joining live,
freeze.
feel free to drop comments in the YouTube live chat, and we'll catch those and respond accordingly. Okay, cool.
We
So,
lost you for a second, but we've got you back now.
got me
yeah, you
back?
froze just for a moment.
Yes.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm super excited for this. It has been so much fun. We've done a couple interviews where we've revealed art, and it's always just the coolest thing. It's always the most fun conversation.
Oh yes, I'm looking forward to it.
Cool. So let's do the fun part of the chat. Let's talk about what you've been up to lately. So Dennis, why don't you start real quick?
Yeah, gosh. So it has been just over a year since we did the Kickstarter for Deck of Wonders. And this was a crazy idea that happened in August a year ago. It got amazing support on Kickstarter, so it funded well above its goal. I think we raised almost $60,000 total on Kickstarter. And so this game is happening, and it should be coming out in early 2022. The game itself is a solo legacy deck building game. It mimics the feel of games like Hearthstone or Magic the Gathering, where you're kind of building a deck and then playing cards onto a battlefield versus an opponent. But the big catch is that all the cards are going into a single deck. So it's you versus a villain. But instead of each of you having your own deck, each of you puts cards into one deck. And those cards each have two sides. One if you draw the card on your turn, and then one side if the villain draws the card on their turn. So it's this solo legacy card game where you are trying to outwit fate herself. The story is that you've stolen the Deck of Wonders from her. So think of the Deck of Wonders as an incredibly powerful magical artifact, and of fate as kind of the goddess of the world. And so naturally, she is pissed at you. She's trying to get the Deck of Wonders back, and she's sending all these villains to accost you and try to stop you. And you are using the Deck of Wonders to try to stay one step ahead. But naturally, going up against fate, trying to outsmart fate, is a losing battle. It's a very difficult game, and you're just trying to stay one step ahead.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've had the pleasure of playing the prototype version of it,
Mm-hmm.
and I grew up playing a lot of Magic, the Gathering. This definitely feels very much along that lines in the solo co-op community. So, hey Ryan, thanks for joining. So, and I
Hello.
apologize. I don't know what's going on with Lauren's video feed on my end, so it keeps
Oh,
going pixelated. Like Lauren, on the other side, it's looking fine, but the
yeah, on the YouTube,
translation.
yeah, is not translating, and I don't know why that is. I've never had a problem with this camera before,
I don't
so
think
that's
it's on
strange.
your end, so I'm not
Oh,
sure
okay.
exactly what's going on. So I'll keep messing with it, but there's a heads up for people, so I'll try to fix it as we go here.
Sure.
Being weird, or this, I guess, the stream is being weird. Oh no, it's frozen.
The hijinks
Yeah,
of a live stream here.
Oh yeah.
hijinks exactly. So okay, so I'm going to tweak something as we keep talking here to try to see if I can't fix that, but we'll keep going. But yeah,
Yeah.
speaking of this game, so yeah, feels very much like Magic the Gathering, and with a solo co-op twist to it. I really enjoyed playing this one. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, I'm so excited to get kind of the full final game into people's hands. The prototype that you got to play was like 90% clip art. Like it was placeholder art. And in the time since then, Lauren has worked her magic, and now the game has full art. I'm so excited about. That's what makes it so fun to kind of bring cards and really brings the story of the game to life. So yeah, that's a big part of the game, and I'm excited to share some of that here, assuming you guys can actually hear me.
Yes, you definitely hear you.
Okay,
Oh, there you are. Okay, very
your
cool.
video has disappeared for us now, so that's what's
Yes.
happening currently. But
I
I guess
sorry, I did that to try to alleviate some of the video coding on my end, so you probably can still hear me. So,
Mhm.
yes, we
plus
can.
you don't see my ugly mug, so.
I don't like that.
So I
Well,
did ask a question before we started on. I'm going to jump to right now. What do you find most important when it comes to art and board games? And Ryan has a response, and so his answer is beside good art, good is being subjective. Says the most important thing to me is cohesive art, where everything looks the same style or could have been from the same artist, even if it's not.
mhm.
That's a really good question. So let's just jump right into it. So since we have a professional artist with us here, so Lauren, how do you approach it to make sure you have the same, even though you have different styles potentially? How do you make sure it feels cohesive within the environment of like Deck of Wonders?
Well, fortunately, this process actually has been pretty straightforward and, well, not easy because this has been a lot of work. But the great thing about this project is that when Dennis first found me at Gen Con 2019, he saw my table and saw that my style was exactly what he wanted for this game. So throughout this whole process, I've been able to work as I have been as a normal artist within my own style, within my own color usage, within my own way of communicating my certain visual languages and how I design my characters and creatures. So I've been able to lend a lot of myself to this game, and it's been a really fantastic experience because making it cohesive has been a fairly straightforward process. Now, there's 3 different villains for this game, and each villain has their own biome. So throughout these biomes, I also wanted to make each of them feel like, this is definitely from the villain column. This is definitely from the villain Aurora and Byzantis. And so each biome has their own unique look to them. But overall, the whole style and everything, the way I treat the characters, the creatures, the environments, and everything, they should all look like they are from the same game. And so I think that overarching theme kind of communicates and carries through everything that I've designed for Deck of Wonders. At least I hope. That's my hope. So it seems like so far everybody has said yes. It looks like it's from the same artist, and it looks clear
Oh
that
yes.
this specific style. So it's pretty awesome to hear that.
I said this last time we chatted, and I still believe it this time. The art in this game is phenomenal. Like Lauren, you did a fantastic job with this one. It is
Thank you.
Mhm.
amazing. And it's particularly cool too. I've got my close-up camera pulled up, so I'll pull up a card real quick so you guys can see. I do have some of the prototype cards with me. But like this one, for example, this Gust of Wind, just to give guys close-up people, it is. We're look,
One.
we're looking exactly. Well, the cool thing about this is each card is double-sided, like you talked about, because one
Mhm.
side is for the players, the other side is for the baddie you're playing against, and it's got this cool dynamic of like how do you represent the good side for the bad side with the same concept, same idea, which is really really cool how it turns out in the end.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's
So you got
also been
the
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 fun
squirrel hanging
challenge.
on for dear life,
Oh
Yes,
yeah,
and
yes.
then caught up in the whirlwind.
has lost the battle at the end there. But the another fun thing about designing this game has been the double-sided nature of all these cards because I get to essentially tell a narrative, whether continuous or whether it blends in from one image to the other. It's all a play of how creative I can get with, selling that story and then the flavor text, wrapping into that and basically assisting with telling that story. And so that's been another really fun process and challenge of this project as well. And so I hope people enjoy that and all the little Easter eggs that I've slipped in there throughout the throughout all the cards. And it's been a really really great experience.
Yeah, I want to talk about it a little bit more because when I look at the cards, I see the good side and then like the flip side, the bad guy side. Um, it's interesting because like that story element you talk about, I feel like it does seem to come across like I have this concept of this character, and how do I make the same character with the same qualities and stuff, and do a weird evil twist to them, right? And that just made it particularly fun to seeing how you tweak that around a little bit. I enjoyed that quite a bit.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah,
And
Lauren actually had a really cool contribution to the idea of the cards, which was kind of looking at the we call it the tame side versus the wild side was the terminology that she introduced, and the idea that like the story is more complicated than just good and evil. It's just different ways things could have gone as fate saw fit, And so you see one side that is kind of what you would expect or what it looks like when it's on your side, and then another side which is like the inhibitions are gone. This thing has been unleashed or it's gone crazy in a certain way. And it's not always in an evil way. Sometimes it's in a mischievous way or just in an unexpected way, which is a ton of fun.
Oh yeah. As a
Yeah.
person who's like very into nature, it's something that was it's definitely a theme that resonates with me because there is no real good and evil in nature. It's just like, how controlled is it versus how unleashed is it? Like I think somebody had mentioned fire yesterday, and it was basically like, well, you can control fire or it can go out of control. And that's basically the difference between the tame side and the wild side. So
I like that.
I with that too.
That's awesome. I like that. Yeah, Ryan's giving me lots of love with the art here, so he definitely likes the style too. So
Yeah, thank you so much. All credit to Lauren.
I'll come back to the biome side you talked about a little bit because there are three different. Talking a little bit more about the game itself, there are three different like big bads you're going against, right? Villains you're fighting in this game, and they're all set in a different, we would say, like region of the world, and each of these regions have their own characteristics and styles. So when you're approaching this, how do you guys work that environment together? Like, Dennis, do you come up with like, hey, this world has these features? I'll make sure you include these characteristics in all your art you're generating, or maybe Lauren, do you take that back and like, you know what, it'd be cool if we had this other characteristic? Is it like this back and forth, or how does that work when you're trying to find the biome?
Yeah.
I
It's
yeah.
really cool how like mechanics inform story, inform mechanics, inform story, and it kind of goes back and forth. So like you mentioned, there are three villains that you're going to go against. And in very broad strokes, they kind of emulate a mid-range, an aggro, and a control type feel to the game. Now there's twists on all of those within each villain, but those are the broad archetypes. And so as I was thinking about, what would represent that or where that might show up, a mid-range deck, it kind of shows up in the forest. An aggro deck shows up in the desert where it's all hot and intense, and kind of fired up, for lack of a better term. And then a control deck is in the mountains, and not just in the mountains, but in like these very dangerous, confusing, serpentine, I guess, I don't know if that's the right word, mountains where like it's easy to get lost. And so each of the biomes was informed by the style of play that the villain brings.
Yeah, and then with those biomes, I took that and wanted to add my own flair to it. And there's a lot of things that I'm interested in. Again, I said I love nature, and so we have the forest, we have the desert, and we have the mountains. And I was like, well, like it would be fun if like succulents or plant life was kind of a source of power in the desert. And so you see those themes happening often, with the kind of energy that resonates throughout the desert biome. Oftentimes succulents are like, in the background or at play just because I'm a lover of succulents and wanted to infuse a little bit of that in there. And then with the mountain biome, the Shardspire Mountains, I also love crystals and I love drawing crystals. And so they're not just mountains, but they're crystalline mountains. And so you'll see those motifs resonating throughout the entire biome of Byzantis. And that was a really cool thing that Dennis was allowing me to run with. And so it's been really nice because I've had these baselines to work off of, but I've also had a lot of freedom to be able to add my own flavor to all of the art. And and Dennis has trusted me to take it and run with it. And I think the results have been pretty good.
That's awesome here. So I'm curious, not to put you on the spot here, Dennis, but we
Yeah.
talked a little bit about like, hey, here's mechanically what I imagine is bound to be, and then Lauren's like running with this, making these cool like, hey, let's add this crystalline structure in here. Now, do you have an example of how like this artistic world backfed into the game to create a new mechanic or a new card type per se?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Lauren just mentioned the Shardspire Mountains
Uh huh.
and how there are these crystals. They're actually magical crystals that are kind of forcing their way up through the rocks. That character also has a strong theme of mind control. And again, it's the control style deck. But the parallel that we very quickly saw was the like, hey, these crystals are forcing their way through the rocks. just like the villain is kind of forcing his way into people's minds. And that idea was nowhere in a brief, that was nowhere in my mind before I saw the art. And then Lauren brought the art, and I was like, oh my god, that's so perfect, like that fits so well. That gets worked into the story. And then you kind of see the crystals inform the cards that show up. So there's another minion that we're not looking at tonight, but it's called the Crystal Golem, and its entire design was inspired by the idea of these crystals. And so that's definitely a place where Lauren's art kind of fed back into the game and then showed up again in a really cool way.
Oh, that's awesome. Very cool. Very cool. So, more about the dual nature of this a little bit. So, do you stick with different color palettes to kind of communicate like the wild side versus tame side, or is that more freeform to biomes, or how? Just looking like curious about consistency and communicating that message.
Oh yeah, I found like many different ways to communicate that message. One of the easiest to do is color swaps and kind of making the wild side look a little bit more dire or a little bit more tense, or in some cases even less tense. There's a few cards that actually kind of flips that concept on its head a little bit, depending on how the context is. But you'll see the color shifting too in cards that have already been revealed, like the Forest Troll or the Pixie Mesmerist, where like different things will shift and change depending on the kind of card it is or what the story is, how the story is unfolding between the top and bottom parts. And it's been really, really fun to play with, to see how different I can make them, or even playing with the similarities between them, and having the person, the player spot the difference, because sometimes there's cards like that too. So it just depends. It's not dependent on biome, it's just dependent on the individual cards. But throughout each biome, we still have the consistent color theme and the consistent theme of that actual surrounding itself. So they should still all tie in together, even if there's more extreme changes in the team side versus the wild side.
That's cool. And with this being a card in nature, I know you only have a certain amount of space to fill within the card area, right? Does that become a challenge every once in a while when going off on these fun concepts?
Oh yeah, like I love playing with composition in a way that works for whatever format it's supposed to be in. And it's interesting because when I work on a card, I have the full area to work with, but I can only work with, half of that area. And so I really have to figure out how to get all of the information in that half, and also help it flow into the wild side of the card as well, with this little bit of information I have to work with. And it's actually been a fun experiment to play with that format and really make it work for what I need to communicate. So I kind of like the restraint and the restrictions, I guess, because then it helps me think outside of the box a little bit in terms of how to communicate a message.
Every once in a while, I come across a game that has card art that's on multiple cards, but if you look closely, they actually can line up and create this big old mosaic that was chopped up potentially. If you don't mind me asking, is there a potential of that somewhere in this game?
No, we don't have the multi-card set unless Lauren put it in and hid it from me.
I don't think I had done that. That would have been really cool thing. Yeah.
She's like, and put these together and now it's an entirely different thing. One really cool thing we were able to do, because the game was so successful, there was an edition of the game called the Fated Form edition. So as you have success versus a villain, they get kind of crazier and crazier until they reveal their fated form. And this is like who they really were all this time underneath, and might have been hiding, might not have, but it's like them as fate really knows that they are. And so we did an edition of the game that is the fated form of this game. And one of the special things that is only in that edition is alternate card art for several of the cards, which has been really, really fun. And we will let the people who kind of got the fated form edition reveal that art when it goes out. But some of my favorite ideas or favorite little tweaks or surprises are in the art, the alternate art that's in the Faded Form edition. So you can get that for yourself, or you can look it up. I'm sure once the game is in people's hands, that art will kind of get out, and we're happy for that to happen. So that's probably the closest to really a big art reveal. But every piece of art does have little Easter eggs in it, and little things that you definitely wouldn't notice at first pass.
Yeah, I've tried to take great care to sneak little things in throughout the game so that even if I can't do the big mosaic, like there's still things that are definitely linked. And the Faded Forms have been really fun to figure out how to twist an original card on its head and change the theme up in a way that's really unique. So I think those have definitely been some of the ones that I'm like proudest of in terms of like how handling it creatively. But a lot of the cards will have some secret things that you like look at closer at it like, wait a minute, is that from there was one the other day that Dennis hadn't noticed when I sent it to him, and I had to I was telling him, it's like, you're closer, you're getting closer, like what this is a reference to. And it was really, really fun to kind of see that come together. So yeah, there's definitely gonna be situations like that.
That's awesome. You talk about telling a story between the top section of the card and bottom section of the card, but one other thing about this game has a legacy element to it, meaning that as you battle a bad guy or complete different levels achievements, you will open up a new pack of cards, and you can add these cards into the deck when it'll change the gameplay a bit. Now, that changes things mechanically, but from an artistic standpoint, are you able to do more of that secret or tying more of that story together through that legacy package?
Yeah, I think especially because from a story standpoint, when you accomplish an objective that unlocks a legacy pack, that represents something momentous happening in the world. That's usually like a big change that you probably wouldn't have seen coming. And so we've really tried to make sure that the cards reflect that kind of exciting moment. So you see things that you might not have conceived as possible to happen, happening, or environments being completely turned upside down. I won't say too many specifics since they are kind of the special secret.
Right.
I love cracking packs. The Hearthstone and Magic the Gathering inspiration is strong for this game, but I also don't like random booster packs. So you get all the cards in this game, but you're only going to open the first 2 packs when you start playing, and then everything from there is kind of open progressively as you play.
Sure.
And so hopefully people get that feel of cracking packs and getting the special surprises, and oh my god, how am I going to use this new mechanic, without needing to invest $500 in that special rare that everyone needs to make their deck competitive.
Absolutely. It also might be worth pointing out too what you mean by legacy as well, because legacy sometimes has a destructive or sticker component to it, right?
Yeah, so you will not be destroying anything in Deck of Wonders, and people have gotten very nervous over that. So that's a great question. There will be an opportunity to upgrade certain cards, and you'll place a sticker on them to upgrade. But that was too much for some people, and the beauty of Kickstarter is I could get that feedback early on and adjust accordingly. So you can place stickers on certain cards to upgrade them. However, if you don't want to put a sticker on the card, you can either sleeve the card, put the sticker on the sleeve, or there will be a space in the rule book where you can kind of place the sticker there and kind of write in what card that's associated with, so that you never have to put anything on your cards if you don't want to. But you will be able to upgrade cards. You will never sticker them in a way that covers up the original information. You'll always be able to see kind of that where the card started and go back and play vanilla Deck of Wonders if you want.
Very awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, and let us know in chat, guys, if you have any other questions on art you want. We'll kind of watching that. But I think, if it's okay with you guys, let's do the art reveal, right? That's what we're here for, right?
Oh yeah, let's do it. This is exciting.
Okay. Yeah, drum roll. So, Dennis, why don't you've been doing these art reveals, and in case people don't know what you mean by this, why don't you give a quick description of what this is about?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, we sent out prototypes of this game for people to play and try. Lauren got as much art done as she could before the Kickstarter for that. However, a large part of the Kickstarter was like, hey, we need the resources to make this art. So the games that we sent out did not have full art. So we've done that in the time between then and now. and we are kind of sharing the art for these cards as we are getting closer and closer to the game being released out into the wild. So this piece of art is something that has never been seen anywhere outside of Lauren and me. So this is a world exclusive, if you will, first time reveal of this art for your eyes only.
And here we go. We have Vengeful Spirit.
Woohoo!
Look at this guy. Oh, he's like in the. Now, the funny thing is, when you sent me these files, I didn't try to look closely at them. I just quick, like, download them, set them up, and don't look too much.
Oh, you surprised yourself.
Trying to
Very
surprise
Oh,
myself.
you didn't see this before.
Well, I had to look at it briefly, but I'm trying not to look too closely. But yeah, so I'm gonna look closely this time. So this guy is in the desert with armor, and I love his alternate side. By the way, his evil side, the wild side. And
Yes.
let me flip this image around so we can take a look at it as well. So that glowing sword is awesome. I love that effect.
Lauren talked about how some of the cards are kind of subtly different, and it's like, can you spot the difference? This one is in your face, like
Oh
different.
yeah, this one is quite different.
And this is
Yeah.
this is a unique card that uses the format of Deck of Wonders in a cool way, because you'll see the tame side, the right side upside has statistics along the top in three different icons, and then the wild side just has these kind of purple icons that indicate it's a spell. So this is a card in the game where if you draw it, it's a minion. If the villain draws it, it's a spell. And that can only be accomplished through the format that we've got here of this kind of two-sided nature.
Yeah, that is really cool. I must admit, when I was playing the prototype of this, that never even crossed my mind. It's like, oh, well, I'm putting these bad guys, these enemies in. I know it's gonna be enemy bad guy, but this changes that formula altogether. Because the interesting thing about this one is I'm a big fan of a lot of people use the term deck construction, right? Where you sit down trying to figure out like what card I'm gonna put in this, customize this deck of cards to beat this scenario, this opponent, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
In Magic the Gathering and Living Card games, I had to do this in spades. But this is interesting because in those card games, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna grab this awesome card, this best card, it'll be great, to take on this scenario. But in this game, like, sure, I can grab that awesome card, but guess what? I might play against the awesome ability against myself. So
Yes.
Yeah, right.
it's like, no, why'd I put that in there?
Yeah, that's the hope, and that was kind of the fundamental. That was the very first idea that led to Deck of Wonders, was that two-sided nature, and the idea that you couldn't have a card that was itself overpowered. You didn't just have to go like buy packs until you got that legendary. Every card has almost a self-balancing aspect to it. So truly, to win, you have to understand how these cards interact, and the only way to get an advantage is to kind of play those interactions better than the villain that you're playing against.
Absolutely.
And I will note that these games or these cards are intentionally balanced to be favoring the villain. Fate is on the side of the villains in this game, and she would rather see you lose. And so the feel of the game is very much that the odds are stacked against you, and the cards reflect that.
I can confirm that. I think the first time I played this, I lost like 5 times in a row, 6 times in a row, and I was like, Dennis, I keep losing. What's going on? And so it took me a while to like grok something in my mind to figure it out. But it's challenging, for sure. So
There is a more puzzly aspect to the game than you might find in a normal TCG, where you definitely have to find the trick for each villain. You have to find your way to overcome those odds that are stacked against you. And you can't just luck into the perfect draw, slap that down, and be like, haha, now I win. Because if you're playing out just one card at a time as you get them, fate is going to wipe the floor with you every time.
I may have been doing that.
To be difficult.
It didn't work out.
There you go.
I do want to point out this card where I have pulled up big for everyone, so they can kind of understand. They first time seen this game, just to get a brief understanding of how the game works a little bit. So, on the hero side of this, it's the creature form, right? So, in the top left, we have their attack strength. The middle one, we have their their initiative, I think. Or what do you call it? It's not initiative.
Call it priority. Yeah.
Thank you, priority.
Mm-hmm.
And in the right corner, you have the health of the minions. And so the priority is going to dictate which groups of minions will will be attacked first based upon the enemy attacks. And so it's a lot of it's trying to figure out, ooh, what order do I play these in? How do I group them to control their attacks?
Mhm.
And then on the other side, like I said, the flip side, when you see that purple nature on there, that's a spell that can be cast. So
The whoosh, I believe the technical term
the
is a
whoosh.
whoosh.
Yes.
So yeah, I guess you have kind of three basic card types that at least I've seen. Maybe there's more. You can keep it a secret if you want. But like you
Mhm.
have creatures, you have spells, and you have attachments. I've seen. That's the
Yep,
basic
yeah,
types.
and those are spells that kind of attach to a minion that's in
Mhm.
play. There's also rules cards, I would say,
Oh yeah.
and those will come out primarily through legacy packs. So I'm not gonna tell on what exactly is in them, but those are cards that are persistent and are going to permanently change the rules versus a given villain. So. Just as you feel like you've got a villain all figured out, just like you feel you've solved the puzzle, you've got their number, you're going to open up a legacy pack that turns everything upside down again. And it's like, okay, well, now I need to play around this, and I need to completely change my deck build. I need to now be aggro where I was control before, or I need to, I need different minions or what have you. So that I guess could be the other card type that's in the game, although it doesn't necessarily go into your deck.
Yep, makes sense. And looking at this art specifically, I kind of want to play as the bad guy because this glowing sword is the coolest thing ever. Yeah. So, a question specifically to you, Lauren, about this. For this specific artwork, did you start with one side versus the other when we took this art concept on?
So usually when I sketch these out, I do think of how the tame side can translate into the wild side. And what I'll usually do is start with the tame side art and then reverse it and see how I can edit it and modify it for the wild side and how I can really bring that out of like whatever the nature is that the card's supposed to represent.
Mm-hmm.
So this was definitely an example of one of those where I took the shape. You'll see a lot of the shapes that kind of repeat but have been transformed in the wild. Like the feather on the helmet is a big example of that, and how even that translated into spirit energy. Because like anything organic has transformed, just like into that spirit. And so that's basically how I worked it. Another thing to note about this card too is that this energy that you see is actually the same type of energy that you see being cast or like absorbed by Aurora. So you definitely get a sense throughout her biome that this whole desert kind of has this energy that's running through it. And so it's being represented very clearly in this revenant soldier that has fallen and then come back to life. So, it's definitely something that I got to play with a lot. And again, this one was a really fun challenge in getting that idea to come
Yeah,
across.
I love the glow you have on the armor from the what used to be a feather and his sword. That's very very cool. So.
Oh, thank you. And
Mhm.
if you look closer to it, the limbs have also been transformed into this like
Oh
ectoplasm
yeah.
rather than anything organic. So you'll be able to see that in like the arms and the legs and stuff too.
the
With the
the Easter egg here is, oh wait, this guy was in a loincloth. So here's another cool piece of design that Lauren kind of brought to the game was the idea of this day to night transformation. And that day to night transformation is a theme that runs through these cards, and runs through the story of Aurora, who's the villain of this set. And that's played with in some really cool ways. So this kind of glowy nature looks way more badass at night than it would in the daytime.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah, and that translates very, very well. Like, and also that's when the revenants come out, that's when the spirits come out. So you definitely don't want to be on the receiving end of the spell.
Sure, sure.
Mhm.
Very nice. Yeah, this is awesome, and well, also horrible too because I see the villain side says destroy the highest health player minion, which is a horrible effect to deal with. So thanks for that, Dennis.
Yeah, well, I mentioned, fate is stacked against you on your side, on the tame side. You got a pretty vanilla, 2/2 minion.
Yeah,
It's 2 priority, which means that dictates when the villain will focus at it. It's not a 3, it's not a 4.
right,
It's not that high priority.
right.
And then on the villain side, it's just going to come out and crush you because you can have a vengeful spirit or you can be a vengeful spirit. And it's definitely being a vengeful spirit on the wild side.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I see it. The other thing I'll mention too is I know you have some flavor text on here too to kind of
Yeah.
add to the theme. So yeah,
Every piece of flavor text is a two-sided thought, or it's a thought with a twist that is split across tame and wild. So yeah, if you can't read it right now, the streaming, it says and it's a quote, only the grave could keep me from my quest. And then on the wild side it says, and even that might not be enough.
yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Love it. So,
Perfect
Mhm.
card.
oh, perfect. Yeah. How do you come up with those quotes out of curiosity?
Um, Honestly, just sitting down with the card and thinking. Like I've I use the term like I'm not always the smartest person, but I feel pretty good that I'm clever. Like I can't always claim to be smart, but I can claim to be clever. And so oftentimes looking for the kind of the twist or the joke is the fun place to start for these quotes. Some are more philosophical than others. Like
Mhm.
this one's a little more menacing and ominous. But a lot of them are also just dumb puns. So, I'm a dad. Part of the reason I made this game was because I wanted a deep strategic experience that I could also play in 15 minutes by myself over my kids' nap time.
Oh yeah.
And that's where the game kind of comes from. But that also means the dad joke is strong with me.
Oh yeah. As it should be.
Oh,
You
yeah.
gotta fill that quota.
That's correct.
Excellent, excellent. I'm not seeing any like comments popping up on the chat. If you guys have any last minute ones, let us know. But I think it's been a lot of fun chatting with you guys. It's been a blast.
It has. Thank
This
you
has
so
been
much for
awesome.
having us.
Always welcome, always welcome. And do you want to ask? Let's do another plug to make sure people know where they can find both of you. So, Dennis, why don't you start?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm sure the link for late pledging to Deck of Wonders will go in the comments or in the bio of this video. Whatever YouTube has, I don't know. I've been on so many different platforms in the past week. I don't know what goes where anymore. But hopefully you can find Deck of Wonders on GameFound. You can late pledge there, and we actually set late pledge stretch goals. So every milestone we hit, we reveal more concept art for the game. So hey, if you want to see what the concept art for Vengeful Spirit looked like, you can go late pledge, and that obviously also gets you the game. If you late pledge, you also get a couple really cool things for free. First off, you get the digital art book for this game. So there's more than 50 pieces across the game. We've put all those into a digital art book for you. Um, you will also get full audio through Foreteller of the story pieces of this game. So I don't know if you've heard of Foreteller, if you've used it. They do fully produced like radio drama style audio for the story pieces of board games, and we are doing that for Deck of Wonders.
Portal is
And then
awesome.
oh, I'm so excited! Like the stuff
Super
coming in
cool.
from like casting and the music test. That's another like literally the art from the game inspired the way we did the music for the game, which is
Oh,
so cool.
sweet.
But if you late pledge, you get that for free. You also, if you late pledge, you get the print and play files included with your physical copy of the game. And so all those three things together basically double the value of the game. It's $35 to start with. That's another $35 worth of stuff on top if you late pledge. And you can find that on GameFound, and hopefully there's a link from wherever you're watching.
Yep.
Yeah, so you can follow me at Deck of Wonders on Instagram. That's where a lot of the cool art tends to go up as well. And that's the right place to find me and find Deck of Wonders.
Excellent. And Lauren, what about yourself? How can people contact you or find your awesome work?
Thank you. You can find more of my art at anywhere on social media under Lab Illustration, LAB Illustration, and that's on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Etsy, Patreon as well. So please keep following my work, and we may or may not have some merch coming out later for Deck of Wonders that is additional. So just watch out for that. And yeah.
Again.
Yes. And I'm going to be continuing to do projects, some of my own personal stuff as well. So if you like what I've done for the game, please feel free to follow me on any of those platforms, and you'll see updates about those too.
I do recommend looking at Lauren's other work because it is awesome for sure. There was there's I'm trying to remember now the shroom or something you've done that was really really cool on your page.
The Mushroom Queen?
Yes, that one.
I know exactly the art you're talking about. Yes.
I highly recommend you guys come out and check it out because it is awesome. So
Now there's a Rose Queen to accompany that one. So that series is starting to build itself out now. So it's exciting.
Oh, cool. Excellent. Well, that's going to conclude this chat. I appreciate you guys jumping out. It was a blast talking with you, and I look forward to seeing more of this game and seeing what you guys have in store.
Oh, thank you so much for having us. This has been
Thank
awesome.
you so much.
Thank you. And everyone, thanks for joining, and we'll see you at the next stop. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.